Шановні пані і панове, ми раді вітати в нашій студії Укрінформ-ТВ черговий раз пана Олів'є Ведріна, директора Континентального інституту при Національному університеті імені Драгоманова. Ми знову будемо говорити про політику Франції і про двосторонні відносини між Францією і Україною. Mr. Vedrin, welcome again to Укрінформ.
Thank you very much.
I have some good news for recent days. I know exactly that French Senate ratified the association agreement between Ukraine and the European Union. What does it mean for bilateral relations between our countries?
Well, this is a very positive news because that means that really France support Ukraine, and that will be for a long time now. But I am not surprised. You know, we talked about that a few weeks ago with the meeting between Poroshenko and François Hollande, this is not a surprise for me, really. Now France is supporting Ukraine, and that's a fact with the Senate.
Last few weeks were quite disturbing from a security point of view here in Ukraine, because we have some kind of violations of Minsk agreements here in Ukraine, we believe, from the side of separatists. But France is an active participant of a so-called Norman Quartet. So that is you the same disturbing the situation, how you see that situation development from the French point of view?
I think the Normandy Quartet is a very good and efficient instrument, because that's we want to solve this crisis between a European partner. And I think it's very good for Europe to try to do something. And this Normandy Quartet is, for me, a nice organization, an efficient organization. And I can say this is also the only organization we have now to solve this crisis efficiently. Because as you know, the Minsk II is not very efficient. And then we have to discuss, we have to negotiate, and this Normandy Quartet is a place of negotiation, and for that is very good.
Okay. But has France a certain position on the proposals to involve, for example, to that format, another players like United States, for example? Do you support that idea?
I think, you know, United States, because of NATO, is part of this negotiation. But as I said, I think that will be nice if Europe can solve its own problems. And I think the American will be very happy if Europe can solve its own problems without them. Because, you know, America also has its own problems. And when I talk with my friend from USA, they say they want a strong Europe, a Europe who can solve its own problems. They are waiting for that also. And you know that less and less they can be involved in some European problem, and more they will be happy.
Okay, let's hope that there will be enough forces in Europe to solve the problem. Let me come back to events in Donbas area.
Yeah.
As Ukrainian media reported recently, there was some kind of French legion appeared in the conflict area, fighting on the side of separatists. I just want to know if you, like a Frenchman, have heard about that events, and how legitimate is that activity from a point of view of French legislation?
First, to end the last question, let's hope that Europe can solve its own crisis in Ukraine, because this crisis is for Europe very important, and we have to solve this crisis in Ukraine with I hope, with our own forces and with the European forces. this question about the French Legion, because there are not a lot, that few, very few. There are, I know this, this problem, because there are, how can I say, they come from some extremist groups. I can say ultranationalist groups. They are against European Union. They are against NATO. They are against US. Then they are really, can I say, very, very few, and they represent like a very extreme kind of group of thinking, of world thinking. But really, for me, this group is like, they are against modernity. They are against Europe. They are against NATO. They are against the US. They think that Putin can save Europe, and a lot of them, because I know, I saw some informations. A lot of them, they don't know Russia very well. A lot of them, they don't speak Russian. They only know Russia in some books with propaganda, and that's a result of the propaganda. Some of them, they are jobless. In France, they were nothing, and because of this idea that Putin can save Europe, they join these groups. For me, this is like marginal,
But maybe they're getting some money for that. Do you have some kind of law in France restricted like mercenaries activities?
Yeah, if in France you fight for another country than your country, you can go to jail for 5 years.
This means, according to the law, which was adopted today in the Ukrainian parliament in the first reading, all the French citizens who wish to fight on the side of Ukraine, they will be put in jail in France. Is that correct?
I don't know, because this is different. Because the mercenary, you fight for a country who is not your country, but that means also the country for who you fight, you are not official. Now, with the law in Ukraine, you can be official. And for me, I think we can do a parallelism with the civil war in Spain, with the International Brigade. And that will be a case of jurisprudence. Very interesting case. Because if a country allows foreigners to fight for them, and this country is a sovereign country, I think we are in the same way of thinking that, like the Brigade International in Spain during the civil war in Spain.
So there need be some kind of harmony between the French and Ukrainian legislation. How we can imagine that situation? If some of French citizens having military experience or something like that, coming to Ukraine to defend the European values, why not? But again, it should be a purely legal activity.
We have some case in the history of France, like the independent war in US. A lot of Frenchmen joined. And the first was the Marquis of Lafayette. After that, or like the civil war in Spain, all the soldiers, French soldiers who joined the civil war in Spain, now are in France. They are recognized as official.
Okay, I see. So there's some kind of historical parallel.
Yes, and I think if tomorrow, because I'm sure that some French will join the Ukrainian army because of this law, I think a lot of lawyers will say, okay, they are not mercenary because look, we have this case in the history. And that will be very interesting to solve. Yeah. And don't forget that in Europe, the European law is above the national law. That means if, for example, a Frenchman joined the Ukrainian army and French say, oh, you are mercenary, and he go to the European court, and the European court said, no, he fight for European value for a sovereign country under the law of the sovereign country. Then, because the law of Europe is above the law of France and all the nation member of European Union, he can be free. But that's a good case.
Interesting development. My next question will be quite boring because we are tired already speaking about Mistrals. But for recent days, that topic, has some kind of developments. For example, Russian Prime Minister Rogozin mentioned that France have no legal reason to sell that ships to no third party because Russians have produced the steams for these ships, and they have France need to ask them some kind of about license to sell that ships. Is that correct? Do you have a legal right to sell that? If not, is that true that that rumors that both ships could be simply flooded?
This is a rumor, very stupid rumor, really. Okay, Mr. Rogozin said a lot of stupid things, and this is not the first stupid thing he said. First, and for me, this is really propaganda. This is really propaganda, and Mr. Rogozin is a very professional in propaganda, and when he says stupid thing, this is always for propaganda because he's not a stupid man. Then for me this is only propaganda. Why? Because now in France we are more and more thinking about how we can give back the money to Russia, and we are thinking about maybe we can sell this boat to another country like Canada, Brazil, or maybe we can take those boats for our navy. Then, where nobody talk about something else.
Somebody is speaking about, for example, selling these ships to China. Because we have, again, according to the recent statements by Russian press, that there is some possibility of selling these two ships to China. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, again, it's according to the Russian press, in few days, the French naval group, including Mistral, not one of the two, but the same type of ship, will come into China with official visit. Is that occasional? Do France really consider the possibility to sell it to China? And ask the question, but I need to ask it. If China will get these two ships, and after that just transfer them to Russia, would not be that kind of some tricky point?
Okay, to be frank with you, I have no information about that. Okay, but because I know that I have some information that they are talking about how to sell those boats to other countries like Canada, Brazil, or to take this boat in our French Navy. But I don't have this information about China. I'm not sure I think this is really a Russian propaganda. Well.
But are there any legal rights to sell such kind of military equipment to China for France, like European country?
I think we can be under, some, what can I say, human rights activists, and I think that will be not good for the image of France to sell those boats to China.
Okay.
I think because in France we take care about some human rights and press freedom and all that, and politically this is not a good choice.
A few days ago, President Holland visited Caribbean and in particular in Cuba, make a visit in Cuba. Is that sign of the general European warming relations with Cuban peninsula? And what is a particularly French interest in developing such relations?
Okay, for me, this is a new period of relation with Cuba, more warm, as you say. But for me, I think the key issue is economic diplomacy, new market, and we want to be involved in this new market only. Now, this is, for me, the President François Hollande in the Caribbean and in Cuba is really economic diplomacy.
Okay, so nothing more.
For me, yes. First, economic diplomacy. After, yes, we can. But what I know and what I saw in some information, the key issue is the market, new market, how to sell our product, and I think the first issue is very economic diplomacy.
I just want to find out if we can look at that situation in more, let me say, general context. Just because Mr. Hollande, he representing for sure not only France, but also European countries. Can we expect some kind of further visiting Cuba, or maybe Cuban officials coming to Europe, just closer relations in the view of closer relations between Cuba and the US? In that sense, I mean, the global warming in the terms of relations between Cuba and the Big West, as we know it.
I think now, definitely Cuba is going to the West camp. And yes, if we see in the global view, for me, I can say after the open door of US, now this is the open door of EU. That means we will include in the US market and in the European market Cuba. And with economic diplomacy, you have also political diplomacy. And I say that we are now negotiating, this transatlantic treaty, okay? And we will have more than 50% of the total global world GDP in this treaty. And I think it's good to show to Cuba our camp and the necessity to Cuba to join a rich country and this transatlantic treaty. And I think Cuba is now very pragmatic, and they will see that they must join 50% of the total world GDP, more than only 2.5% with Russia.
Yeah, but let us hope that it will be a good news for Russia also, because if we are keeping in mind the good relations between Russians and Cubans, maybe it will be additional reason for Russians to go in a civilized way of development. A good example. Let us hope Cubans will give them a good example of development.
I'm sure, at the end they will go to the West Camp, but at the end, and I cannot say when, but now as I said, Russia is on the wrong way, and this war in Ukraine is not efficient for politically, economically for Russia, but now is how they can escape from that. And I must say that maybe Russia need help to escape from this bad game, because they don't know how to escape. And I think this is the key issue, because now, Crimea, Donbass is a road without, is really a gap, a political gap. And we have to find a solution to escape from that. But we have to find a solution, and the Russians have to find a solution, because they go to the wall now. They will destroy the economy. And if you read some articles in some newspaper in Russia, some newspapers say that the economy in Russia is clinically dead.
I don't think European partners interested in the death of Russian economy because it could be a global disaster for entire world. So I need to go to my question. We just came through during our first conversation. Do you still believe that it's still possible to create some kind of a free trade zone from Lisbon to Vladivostok?
I believe, yes. I want to believe, because this is the only issue for Europe. Include Ukraine, include the European Union, include Russia. We are now in a global world, globalization. We have to, now you have India, China. What does it mean to do a war of the 19th century in the middle of Europe? That means nothing. Nothing. And now everybody now is going to do some union, and now we have a country, continent country. You cannot think like in the 19th century. And yes, I believe, because as I said all the time, this is the law of the necessity. Even if you don't want, you will have to do, because this is the necessity. And this large area from Lisbon to Vladivostok is the only way for Europe to survive in the global world. And the problem now is Putin. Putin, for me, Putin is breaking the future of Europe.
Yeah. Let us hope he will not succeed. Let us hope Russia will succeed.
Let's hope Putin will not succeed. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.